Nature provides in abundance. She reproduces indiscriminately, at the mercy of the wind and the weather. Man chooses from the wild and plants for beauty. From the seed, these flowers, as from the acorn, the giant oak. Man nurtures and cares. He plants and he transplants. Planting and transplanting can occur at almost any time during the growing season. Long before winter frost is out of the soil, planting begins indoors with seeds that require a long time to germinate, or seeds which grow very slowly. This potting soil is made with equal parts of sand, peat moss, and loam. Other mixtures may include perlite or vermiculite in various proportions. For early flowering, fast-growing seeds, such as these marigolds, may be started indoors. Some favorite garden flowers, such as petunia and snapdragon, have very fine seeds. These should be barely covered with soil. Moisten the soil by watering from below. Marigolds germinate quickly in 4 or 5 days. When the seed leaves or cotyledons appear, separate the tiny plants. Seedlings are planted in small individual containers to continue their growth indoors. Then, when all danger of a late spring frost is past, they can be set in outdoor beds.
To plant seeds to see how careful I can be. I like it when it blooms and people say, "Look at that beautiful flower."
The main planting season is spring. And this is also the time for the gardener to enjoy and appraise what he has previously planted. Although actual outdoor planting must wait until the ground is free from frost and somewhat dry, planting a garden and ordering nursery stock or flower and vegetable seeds is wisely done well in advance. Some shrubs arrive bare-rooted and should be set out as soon as possible. Before planting, soak the roots for a day. Begin with a hole half again as deep and wide as the root system. Put several inches of topsoil in the bottom of the hole, and if the soil is compact, clay-like, and heavy, mix in peat moss and sand. Trim back broken or bent roots. Spread out the bare roots and fill soil around roots and sides. firm the soil and water in stages to avoid leaving large air pockets among the roots. When planting roses, prepare a hole large enough for the roots to spread naturally. Add humus to the bottom of the hole, but little or no fertilizer at planting time. Pruning back some of the shoots eases the demand on the root system until new branch roots can grow. Mound up the soil to support the root system and cover the roots, packing the soil firmly. The juncture of root and stem should be just at the surface of the soil. Water thoroughly. Rose bushes planted in early spring usually bloom by midsummer. The planting principle is the same, whether for seedling, shrub, or tree. Here, a balled and burlapped shrub will be planted in the same manner as those which had bare roots. Open the top of the burlap just before covering. The burlap and rope will decompose. A top dressing or mulch of wood chips or pine bark slows weed growth and helps to prevent the soil from drying out. A handful of fertilizer should be added to the mulch. Professional nurserymen ball and burlap large trees for transplanting. A year earlier, this tree was root pruned by digging a trench around it. All the larger roots were severed, and the trench was filled with a porous mixture such as peat and soil. This encouraged the growth of a compact root system within the ball. Now the roots may be trimmed with minimum loss of small feeder roots. The tree is carefully burlapped to protect the roots and surrounding soil during the moving operation. Some gardeners work with smaller trees and shrubs already balled and burlapped by the nurseryman. For a tree of any size, stakes and guy wires are needed until it is well rooted in the new location. Tulips thrive for several years with proper care. If bulbs are wanted for subsequent years, the leaves must be left for many weeks until they turn yellow naturally. Then the bulbs are dug up, stored in a cool, dry place for the summer, and replanted in the fall. These plants are being removed early to make room for another display. Thorough soil preparation is important before any planting. Large areas are cultivated with a power rototiller, but the soil of smaller beds can be broken up with spade and fork. Addition of compost, leaf mold, or peat moss improves soil aeration and moisture holding capacity, as well as improving soil texture. Complex flower patterns ought to be planned in advance. Marigolds are planted 6 to 8 inches apart. For planting, a cool, cloudy day is preferable. On hot, sunny days, the new transplants may wilt and be retarded in growth. Petunias are planted in the same manner. To prevent drying, don't expose roots to the air any longer than necessary. Geraniums in clay pots are handled similarly. Tropical water lilies are planted in early summer after the weather is really warm. Containers at least a foot square and deep should be filled with a rich soil mixture. The plant is then placed in a submerged tub. The pool should be deep enough to allow at least 4 inches of water above the crown of the plant. A handful of complete fertilizer is added when planting, and also several times during the growing season. Good bloom may be expected from late summer until the cool nights of autumn. Another early spring task is making chrysanthemum cuttings. This old plant was dug up last autumn and kept indoors during the winter. Strong shoots are chosen and will be rooted in sand. They should be watered regularly. After about 3 weeks, the cuttings will have developed new root systems. The plants are then removed from the sand and potted up individually in a good soil mixture. These small plants are well branched because they were pinched back when they were about 4 inches high. If chrysanthemums are transplanted to larger pots, watered and fertilized during the summer, they will be ready for autumn planting, either to fill in open spaces in an old bed or to create a completely new garden. Iris may be divided any time between late July and the beginning of September. Break off new divisions of growth from the original rhizome and trim back the leaves. The old rhizome should be discarded. Cut the tip and treat with powdered sulfur to discourage decay. Replant each new rhizome individually by making a saddle hole, covering the roots, and allowing the top of each rhizome to barely break the surface of the soil. At least 3 rhizomes of one variety should be planted close together if there is to be a good display of flowers the following spring. Treated in this way, iris will not need dividing again for 4 or 5 years. As the growing season comes to its end, gardeners look forward to autumn and bulb planting time. To naturalize daffodils, toss bulbs on a grassy hillside or other well-drained area facing the sun. Plant the bulbs where they fall, noses up, each about 6 inches deep. Roots will form during the cold season, and the daffodil's golden trumpets will greet the spring. So, with the falling leaves, nature settles in for her winter rest, and man begins to plan for another garden year.